another episode of With the Chiefs.
Wait. Man, I need more rest.
I hope I've got your last name right there.
It's a very good pronunciation.
You should know better than that now, Donald.
I know.
All right, welcome back to another episode of With the Chiefs. Today we're lucky to be joined by Kieren Tall. Kieran is one of Australia's best distance runners, primarily focusing on the 5K and 10K distance. Kieran currently has personal bests of 1350 in the 5,000s, 2847 in the 10,000.
We're frozen.
Kieran, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. I think I might have missed a little bit of that. I don't know if that was my internet or whether that was a bit of a frozen spot, but regardless, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. So, keen to have a chat.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. I think, the classic internet always tripping us up. But anyway, we normally kick off the interview with just a bit of a training recap. So, I guess what's been happening for the week with you?
Well, this is not just so you listeners know, it's not a typical week for me. I have had a few hip issues, and I've recently just seen my sports doctor, who's told me I've got a few issues with my sacroiliac joint in my hip on the left side. So, unfortunately, my training is a little bit interrupted. I'm in the gym a bit more often. I'm doing a bit of cross training, hop back on the bike, maybe even a bit of rowing to strengthen my back and my pelvis, kind of that area. But usually today I would have been in the gym, which I was anyway, and usually doing 2 runs, so about an hour to a 10 miler and a 30-minute double plus an hour gym. Today I've just done a very light jog and gym just because I'm trying to get my hip better because I'm a bit injured at the moment.
What is that something you've been struggling with for a little bit?
Look, I've had hip issues for a while. I've also had lower back issues for a while. Over the last year and a half, I had my training schedule quite interrupted. But I think recently I've kind of learnt the reason why, because I've been trying to get to the bottom of why I've had lower back issues and why I've had hip issues, and I've gone through a lot of different physios and done a bunch of different scans, and I've never really been able to work out what's going on. And then I went to my sports doctor, who's always been able to help me, and she has said that it's all these issues are stemming from the same thing, because things like massage haven't solved it. So while it's been going on for a while, I think it's gotten a lot worse, especially during the Launceston 10 race, which I did recently. So that kind of prompted me to go and see my sports doctor and work things out. So I'm going to be able to train, but I may have to lighten the load for a bit and just focus on, correcting those weaknesses in different areas, which is going to be interesting for me because I'm actually studying sports science and to be a strength and conditioning coach. So it's going to be education for me as well as just, a bit of a patience test to try and get things right and then build fitness back once I've corrected the weaknesses and let that hip, de-stress a bit.
Yeah. So what do they sort of think the cause is, or is there any sort of idea? Is it just overload?
Just like imbalances?
So it's a bit of, I'd say more towards imbalances. So basically my left sacroiliac joint is not functioning symmetrically. So when I run, it can't take as much force, and the joint is not doing its job in terms of me having an efficient running gait. So that hip is partially weak due to, I guess it's just my biomechanics, as well as what my strength coach reckons is my right arch of my foot is collapsing inwards when I run and when I walk. So there's a bit of, asymmetrical instability all across my body, and it's all linked up when I run. So I guess if one bit is not working, and that right foot is going to translate to putting more force through another part of my body, which could be that hip. So I guess there's a whole lot of different weaknesses, different areas that I'm going to need to correct and work on both in the gym and with a bit of release and massage. Still working it out, to be honest, but there's definitely areas that I know I need to work on now, that's what I'm focusing on.
It's crazy that how things sort of connect you. I mean, you get pain in one area, but like it's obviously, like you described, it's linked to so many different areas, and it's often hard to actually figure out what's going on, which
definitely
can be challenging at times.
I think even like really well qualified health professionals, whether you're a physio or a sports doctor or a chiropractic even guys like that and girls like that, health professionals really struggle to sometimes work things out because your body is so complicated, especially when it comes to running. So it's a really difficult process to try and work out why something is really going wrong when, as you said, everything affects everything. So you can't just go, oh, Kieran's hip or Kieran's back is tight. We're going to massage the area and try and release it and either deload or change the training volume or try a different pair of shoes when, the stability or strength in your foot or your knee or another part of your body could be actually causing that, and they both affect each other. So I think this is not an easy issue to fix, so it's going to take a bit of patience, but it's going to be a learning process for me.
So I guess obviously that's linked to the 10K you did in Launceston. So what kind of happened there?
So a couple of weeks before, my hip had started flaring up again, and I kind of knew from about just before Sydney 10 that my hip was a bit weak, and I'd been working on strengthening that. Had been getting a lot better. Had a pretty good race at Sydney 10. That was my first race back in about 6 months, 4 to 6 months, I'd say, and then had two shorter races in the week prior, and I'd recently started seeing a really good chiropractor who had been releasing the hip and helping me run better, but that longer race, my hip just did not tolerate it. And the combination of racing twice the week before and then, having a long flight, long travel day with a lot of delays. I jogged the day before and I noticed it was a bit tight. I did a lot of active release, and I got up early and did about an hour to an hour and a half of stretching and active release and activation before that race, before I even did my warm up. And my hip just didn't tolerate it from the start. Started off just tight, and I could tell I was locked up, and my whole running gait and form was wrong. And it just got worse and worse and worse until it started being painful, and I limped the last 3 kilometers home. But I always would prefer to finish a race, even if the time and the result is not what I wanted, rather than pull out. So I just did my best with what I was given. Frustrating, but everyone has.
Yeah, that's actually one. That's one thing. Because my next door neighbor is Otto. He mentioned that you kind of will just fight until the end, as opposed to let something like that stop you. That's just a little comment he made, but it's very, very frustrating, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I mean that's just me. As much as everyone finishes a bad race and go, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I hate this." I think everyone has gone through that stage of being fed up with an injury or sick of it. But I've never been someone to give up, and I'm also someone that can be a bit stubborn. And I think this injury has been around for a while, and it's gotten progressively worse. And I've just refused to accept that it's there because I don't want to find a reason not to do well. I like finding reasons to get through something and do well. So. It's just I'm doing my best, but I think it's frustrating. But I think that Launceston race kind of forced me to accept that I was injured and that I needed to face the issue from a more multifaceted perspective rather than just go through massage. And I was doing a lot of single leg isolations in the gym to strengthen it, so a lot of single leg Romanian deadlifts and other exercises that would isolate either the hip abductor or the gluteus maximus, and along with that kind of hamstring muscle as well. Yeah, but I was pretty upset after it, but I'm going to bounce back and keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the interview. But I guess Dom, how's your week going as a recap?
Yeah. Not too bad. It's been a bit of an interesting week. So I was up at Bluey's still on Monday and was just trying to cram in as much elevation as possible in the lead up to this 100 miler that's going to be super hilly. So I did like 800 meters elevation on Monday. I think it was like 19 Ks. And then Tuesday, I think I ran home from work and went to Turbo, and we did a little session there on the hills as well. And then I think Wednesday I ran home from work. Thursday I was working from home and just got up for lunch on the hills and put some practice in with my poles, because that's a bit of a weak point for me. I've never used poles before, and I think that's the second time I've ever used them. But I'm gonna have to run the whole thing with them. So yeah, just trying to do a speed course on how to run with poles. And then Saturday, I did some more hills. Just there's a hill, a Tunga hill in the eastern suburbs that's pretty steep, and I just went up and down that 29
29. What
times.
about 30, Dom? Come on.
What happened to
Yeah,
the
I
round
know.
number
I
30?
think I got to the 29th one and I was like, yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like to the point where I'm feeling like my knees are pretty shot. Like I should probably stop
Probably
now.
more from
So
the downhill than
I think,
actually
yeah,
uphill
I made
too.
yeah, 100%. Like it just absolutely thrashes your quads and your knees running
Oh
downhill.
yeah.
Like the uphill's not too bad really. And then, yeah, Sunday I ran to the surf and went for a surf and then ran home from the surf
You run in a
and
wetsuit?
got out in the afternoon and yeah, in a wetsuit. It's pretty uncomfy, but
How cold's the
warms you
water at
up,
the
I
moment?
guess. Yeah, it's not too bad, the water. Like, yeah, kind of still pretty warm, surprisingly. Like, I thought it started to be getting a bit cooler now, but yeah, it was all right. And then, yeah, just went for a run that Arvo as well. But yeah, I feel like all the hills and stuff, I've kind of just gone from 0 to 100 and I'm feeling a bit broken. Like, niggles are starting to pop up left, right, and center. So, yeah, I think I need to start tapering soon, anyways, which is probably a good thing.
um,
But
how did because that was your second time, you said second time using the poles. Is it any easier or did you find any intricacies worked
I
out
reckon,
or?
yeah, no, I'm starting to get the hang of it, I think. Like, it's just like anything, it takes a bit of practice until you sort of even just cognitively sort of figure out how to move your body and
Yeah.
things like that. But I feel like I'm getting there, so probably it'll be just in time for the race. But yeah, we'll see how we go.
Your race is 3 weeks? In 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks on the 9th of July.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you, Smitty? How's your
Yeah,
week been?
good. This was, I think this will probably be last week was the biggest week of the training block. I had a few sort of key sessions, mainly doing half marathon pace stuff in the lead up to Gold Coast. So I think Monday was easy. Tuesday, I actually did the session in the morning. It was 2x6K split up into like um, blocks. So I think within each 6K, there was 3K, 2K, 1K with sort of like a float. I actually did that one with Otto, which was good. It was nice to run with Otto, but it's funny. He's been training, I think, like 60 Ks. His volume hasn't been up. He's kind of been like on and off. I think from what I've heard, he's sort of like really full on at work, and then he basically just jogs that session. Like he just so much talent. But it was really good to train with Otto. I feel like we don't because Otto normally goes to. He didn't actually make it to the run crew session. I
I
think that's
saw
why he
that.
trained with me because he's normally Tuesday. That's the Tuesday night session. I think that
Yeah,
you
it
guys
is.
normally do.
Yeah, we usually do that
Yeah,
either. Well, it's either usually at ES Marks. Actually, we haven't been back to ES Marks for a while, but it's usually there. And at the moment, it's either at Barangaroo or Centennial. Um, Otto
yeah,
is insanely talented, and he's also very good with time management, considering the amount of hours he works in his job.
mate,
I don't know how
crazy.
I don't know how he survives, considering how much. Sometimes I hear that he's had 3 hours sleep and he's still rocking up to the 6 a.m. Saturday session, and then he's going straight to work after. Thinking, if this dude ever gets a week off, he's going to run really fast. Already does, but insanely talented.
Yeah.
Lovely dude too. So shout out Otto.
Yeah. Um,
definitely.
so that session was actually pretty fast. Like we were we were in the next percents, which added a little bit of speed, no doubt. But yeah, it left me feeling pretty good. I think the last K was pretty quick, so being able to finish strong gave me a bit of confidence. I think I'm building that sort of level of strength, which is nice. Actually had a bit of a nosebleed in the morning. I think it was because of the because of the cold. It might have been, but actually thinking of it, I almost made Otto feel pretty sick because it looked like someone beat me up. But anyway, had to deal with that. Had an extra 2 minutes rest, which was actually not bad. But yeah, that was Tuesday. Wednesday was easy. Just keeping it super easy in between those sessions because normally doing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday pretty hard. So Thursday was what was Thursday? 3x5K.
That's
Yeah,
3x5K, geez.
yeah. It was this week is definitely, speaking to my coaches, meant to really test me out, which it did. But I really had to fight on that last 5K. But it was, I feel like it was good mental training for the back half or the back end of the half marathon, if that makes sense. So happy to get that done.
Looked like a pretty good session as well. What were the splits?
I think 1650, 1720 and 1710. But that last one was really kind of hurt me. But it was good because I think it was 3 minutes, sort of 3 minutes float ish. So it was a good effort. I think I'm starting to feel the effects of training sort of 3 months prior doing that sort of work, and now I'm feeling fit, which is nice.
sounds like you got pacing that really
Then what
well
was
too.
it? Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think I went out a little bit quick on the first one. Um, because I felt pretty decent, and then obviously forgetting the fact that you got to do another two, which is
Yeah.
not great,
I mean,
but
look,
yeah, it was good. It was good. So
sorry, I was just saying, if you're hurting on the third one, but
no, no,
you're
no.
running faster or running the same speed, I reckon for a session that you're targeting and a session that's harder, that's kind of what you want to do. And if you manage to do that, you're in a good spot. So it sounds like you're going to run a good half
Yeah,
a few weeks then.
yeah. Fingers crossed. I hope I don't jinx myself by mentioning it on this podcast, but yeah, you're right. I remember, like, even if I'm hurting in previous sessions, that's actually a good point. I'll fall backwards like massively and won't be able to, like, it'll be a write off for the rest of the session. So yeah, that's a good point actually. Then Saturday caught up with some Delta people, which was nice. It was a really good group that went out for a 14K tempo. I did. I think my biggest session, definitely my biggest session of the block, and maybe my biggest session to date, which was to 9x2K. Um, that was just a big grind of a session, but I sort of toned it back a little bit and got through it. It was meant to be sort of a half marathon pace, but I was just scared of blowing up essentially. So I toned it back. But yeah, it was one of those sessions which was really good to get through. You start hurting, especially like rep 6, 7, and 8. But yeah, got through it, and that's my training week. Oh no, Sunday. Sunday was like I did some 1 minute 1 minute max testing. So like with a 6 minute walk recovery, which is a bit weird. But yeah, the goal was just to run as fast as I can for 60 seconds, which I'm really not used to doing that shorter stuff. Kieran, do you do much of that shorter, like that would be like your track workouts, would it?
I definitely do some shorter stuff. Definitely not every week, but I've done some pretty lactic oriented sessions, like 200s, 300s, 400s. In summer, we'll do something like 15 by or 20 by 500.
Mm,
Um, we'll do 400s, 300s, like just like a lot of lactic work. Sometimes it'll be a mixed session, so we might do some longer reps and then we'll finish the session with either hill sprints or like 200, like 4 to 6 to 8 by 200. So
yeah.
it's definitely important. Even for winter, I'd say it's really important. I haven't done much absolutely flat out testing in terms of, flat out 400s, but to be honest, when you're when you're young and competitive like we all are, you're definitely going to be racing people in those shorter reps.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've definitely caught myself racing even some of the 800 guys running insane, pretty quick 200s and 300s just because I don't like losing.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, I remember back in the day when I was doing 200s with Dom, I would always dream of being able to catch him. There's just no chance. There's like
Yeah.
5 second gap. So, but but yeah, it's good to dream. But yeah, anyway, that's a big long. My training weeks are always a really um dragged out, so apologies. But yeah, I'm in a good place with training, so hopefully I can put a good half marathon together. I'm getting anxiety about like getting sick or something,
Mm.
but should be fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Anyway, that's all right. That's it for our training recaps. So I guess Kieran, if you don't mind, sort of going into how you got started in running, like just I guess as far back as you remember.
Sure. So I actually started off as a triathlete, believe it or not. Um, I did a lot of sports as a kid. Played like probably state level soccer and AFL and swimming, cycling, running. I actually did skiing as well. Did a heap of different things. Um, I did competitive running as a kid, both in primary and secondary school. It took me, was not actually very good at it to start with. I was, I took a few years to even win my school cross country. Then I got the CSSA, and then it took me a few years to even of actually getting knocked out before I got to the next round of CIS and then state. And it took me about I think 5 or 6 tries, probably 5 tries to get to state, and another 3 or 4 or 5 tries to get to nationals before I got there. So it was a lot of persistence. Then probably age 20, I finished up my triathlon career and decided I just wanted to do running. And yeah, now here we are. I've always loved sport, but I've only been a runner a couple of years.
Yeah, gee. Well, so triathlon, um, how long did you do that for?
Oh, I started doing triathlon for fun as a little kid at probably 7 or 8 or 9 years old, and that was mainly
All
just a
right,
fun
okay.
thing. I was competitive at it, but I did it seriously in high school. I made world championships for under 20s for it, and also made world duathlon championships as well for under 23s. So I took it pretty seriously as I got a bit
Jeez.
older.
Wow.
Had a few nasty bike crashes and all sorts of things, but won state championships for under 20s when I was 16 or 17, and then yeah,
Wow.
tried to do running. I thought I had more of a shot at making it in running than triathlon.
Well,
Jeez. And then you went on to represent Australia in running as well. So that's 3-time Australian representative. That's
Yeah, so
pretty
I
impressive.
had world schools cross, world's cross, world triathlon champs, and world duathlon champs. I believe. I think that's the ones. I think that'd be yeah. Been overseas a few times. It's a massive privilege to represent your country. It was my dream since I was 6 years old. So I feel like making that world's cross team it was realizing a dream for me. I was both very grateful and very excited and very nervous all in one.
mm,
Yeah.
well, I think.
Was
Sorry, no.
like each of those experiences, like I don't know, how do you rate them compared to each other? Like did some have more meaning than others or
I think the world's cross team in Uganda with the under 20s one probably felt like my first real Australian team because it was
hmm.
the duathlon one was I'd say it was different in a way because my focus was more around running and not it wasn't as contested, whereas that all the best people in Australia lined up to
Yeah.
try and get on that team to Uganda back in 2017, and I think I also had my best race in Uganda out of all the ones that I've been competed internationally in because my experience at World Triathlon Champs, I actually got the flu a week before. I still raced, but I had a bit of a tough day, and it definitely wasn't what I wanted. And World Duathlon Championships, I crashed out a couple 3 to 4 days before. And had a nasty bike crash and ended up in hospital, and then had my right leg immobilized for about 10 weeks after because I opened my knee up all the
Oh
way to the
geez.
bone and had 3 layers of 36 stitches,
Wow.
and it was
Far out.
and yeah, so I've had a few, you know, pretty major setbacks with that. So I think in terms of international experiences, my best race was definitely in Uganda, and is definitely a really cool trip. And I was 18 back then, and I was rubbing shoulders with guys like Brett Robinson and Sam McKenty and Stuart McSwain, Jack Rayner, Liam Adams, guys like that that were, and people I looked up to that I now race it more often now, and still do look up to them. They're still doing what I want to do for a job, but I'm more racing them now. Back then, I was like probably a bit of a fanboy, to be honest. But yeah, Uganda was sick. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully, I can do it again soon.
What?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, the transition away from triathlon, was that from and into running, was that more from a performance thing, or did you kind of? I mean, that accident sounds absolutely brutal. Probably that would scare the shit
Mm.
out of me.
Um,
Um,
I would say it's a bit of an enjoyment thing. I love cycling and I love running despite the crashes, but I did not like swimming, and I think swimming is my weak point, and I worked on it for a long time and really
mm,
just, I'm not one to give up, but I just knew realistically that I may not ever swim fast enough, and I enjoyed running a lot more. So I just thought that was my main factor, decision making, factor as well as performance. I felt like I was starting to show more promise in running than I was in triathlon, and I just it was more an enjoyment thing though. I just really was hating swimming, and just getting up at 4:30, 4 in the morning to go and swim for 2 hours, not 8, 9, 10 times a week to try and get good enough at swimming, and it just wasn't going anywhere. Whereas running, I'd put more effort into running and I would see a result,
Yeah,
even if it took months. I did have another nasty bike crash in 2016 too, just about 8 months before I made that world's team. That was probably my worst one. I was told I'd never walk again, so but I
far
love
out.
running.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think. Jeez. Yeah. I don't know. That's why I
Yeah,
don't even
it's
get on the. I don't get on the bike at all, just because I'm scared of getting on the road and getting hit by a car. But I mean, that's a very practical. That's a good sort of a practical reason to make the switch um, in terms of the training, because I know you got to obviously do a lot of cycling
Oh yeah.
as well. So, um, it, so there's like a significant amount of reduced load, I would imagine. Um, so, yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Dom, you were going to ask a question and I cut you off. So sorry.
yeah. Oh, that's all right. I was just thinking, like, it sounds like, yeah, you've had a ton of setbacks, with like injuries and being sick or whatever. Um, do you reckon that's like helped your mental strength like now and helped you to kind of find a bit more? Like, I think that Smitty was saying that's kind of what you're pretty well renowned for, is just that grit that you've got. Do you think that's been developed from those moments that you've had? And do you ever sort of look back on that in the tough times in a race and use that as motivation at all? Or I don't know, how do you become so gritty?
Oh, definitely. I've, been through a lot. Like, I'm not one to go and want people to feel sympathy for me, or, I'm not a poor me or a attention seeker at all. But I definitely think those moments of having maybe more setbacks than some other athletes or some other people have been beneficial for me. Definitely. I've had my bike crash in 2016. I was in hospital for a while. I missed my whole last term of the HSC. Left
Oh shit!
left hospital in a wheelchair, told I would never run again or compete again by a couple of different specialist doctors, because I had a little bit of my frontal lobe, my brain was swollen, and I had severe concussion,
Wow.
had chronic fatigue and dizziness for a month or two, broke both my wrists, had surgery there, had a handlebar go into my pancreas. I was covered in
Shit.
road rash. I was, you know, I, I was not in a good way. I had surgery on my wrist, and then the year after I had that bike crash, had a lot of sickness. I had could name a dozen different things I've gone through that are that level that are pretty nasty, but they've definitely, as much as they really suck at the time, they've definitely made me stronger and made me be able to see past things. Even like this injury sucks. I know that I've been through more difficult things than this, so I will come out the other side. It's pain tolerance
Mm.
as well. Gosh, that operation I had in Canada to save my knee was not fun. I had no painkillers at the time because they didn't have any in the little hospital I was in. 'Cause I was on the back of a mountain doing mountain biking, and they washed my knee with a high pressure washer while I could see my whole patella open with no
Oh
painkillers, and
my
then they
god.
stitched it up right in front of me while I was awake. So that was
Jeez.
not one of my favorite experiences, but every time I go in for a needle, I think, gosh, it's just a needle. I had like 20 of these in my knee a couple of years ago. So yeah, definitely
Mm,
helps mental strength. There's definitely, still work to do there. I think all good athletes should be working with a sports psychologist and working on their psychological strength, because we always, train our bodies, but we don't train our minds enough. And I still think I've got work to do there. So it's, a
mm,
good starting point though, just, learning how to cope with adversity.
definitely. I think like it's like an area that's really sort of undervalued by a lot of people,
Definitely.
and no one's really paying much attention to it. It seems, but there's a lot to gain there,
Sure.
possibly. Yeah.
Jeez.
Definitely.
That's that's quite intense. I didn't factor in that at all, that where you were and not having painkillers and stuff like that. Shit.
Yeah,
So
I got them eventually, but it was, it was in a backcountry hospital near Whistler. So they did a good job of stitching it up. Kudos to the surgeon. Um, if he's got Strava, that is. But
oh Jesus.
yeah,
Um
not it wasn't fun, and they did a good job in the end. But it was definitely very different than if I'd been at home in Sydney.
yeah.
Mm,
Um I think we had Rosie Cooper on previously, and she was mentioning she uses specific sort of um mental methods like during a race to keep focus, like when those sort of negative thoughts come in and when you're hurting. Is that kind of the thing, like do you have any specific things you think about when you're in a race and when you're hurting?
Yeah, have a few strategies for when I either have really negative thoughts or self doubt or anxiety around races. A lot of people, when they have a really negative thought or a moment of self-doubt, or I can't do this, they instantly fight the thought and they go, no, I can. No, almost disregard it or pretend it didn't happen, which is really useless with if you understand how sports psychology and how the brain works, because you thoughts there whether you like it or not. It's like looking down at your knee bleeding and going, no, my knee's not bleeding. Your brain's the same thing. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's the way you respond to it. It's like pretending something didn't happen when you're going through adversity or an injury. Ignoring it's not going to help, or pretending it's not there is not going to help. I like to kind of acknowledge that it's there, but choose to respond differently. So let's say I'm in a race and I have a thought going, "Oh, you're going to get dropped. You're not fit enough for this. You can't do this. This is too hard. You're going to blow up." I acknowledge that thought and I just let it slip past, like it's something I'm ignoring, something I'm almost acknowledging, but it's not significant. So I kind of downplay its significance and choose to
mm,
replace the thought with something else. So I think, oh yeah, I've thought that I'm not going to make it, and then I keep focusing on what I need to kind of try and at the same time almost. It sounds really corny, but living in the moment, or
Mm,
situational mindfulness is
yeah.
all about thinking about what you're doing now. So not it's like me being on this podcast and thinking about, oh shit, I might not excuse the language, sorry, but not I might not run well tomorrow because my hip hurts, or if you're in the race thinking, what happens if I don't win? Am I going to not lose Instagram followers, or lose Strava followers? What's going to happen? Is my girlfriend not going to give me kudos on Strava? This is sad. You got to really think about your form, think about your positioning in the pack, your breathing, your individual performance or technique cues. So yeah, it's a combination of things of trying to stay present and really deal with thoughts as they come in, and I guess it's called acceptance. Some psychologists call this acceptance and commitment therapy, when they choose
mm,
to acknowledge a thought but not hang on to it or not respond to it emotionally.
Mm,
Lots of different things that you got to find what works for you. What works for one person is not going to work for another person. So just like when you coach an athlete and you give them a different program to someone else, that even though they might have the same goal, it's the same thing with teaching sports psychology. It's all about the individual and how their brain works, and what kind of thoughts they may have or how they best respond.
mm. That's
mm,
a yeah, that's a really good insight into, because I guess I've been doing like a little bit of meditation in the morning to sort of attack that thing you're referring to, and it is very much about not not fighting the thoughts. It's like, because what I find, at least, and what I resonate with what you're saying, is essentially when you try and fight it, you actually get dragged into. I find you get dragged into the energy a bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. So it's like just letting it, just letting it go is definitely a better method. And sort of what I've tried to do is learn to accept that all these negative thoughts are just going to come in your mind regardless. It's almost like whenever you do something, whenever you whenever you like push up against your call it your limits, or I don't know, or like something you think you can't do, or your insecurities, those sort of things, I find my mind kind of goes crazy at me. um I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if you boys can sort of relate, but it's a very, very human thing, I would hope. And when you talk about it a little bit more openly, you realize sort of we're all going through this thing. Um, um, yeah, but it's interesting because there is so many different waves of ups and downs that go on, especially during a race. But same with training, as well. I find, like, you can just be on a roll and then up and down. Like, do you, on a week to week basis, do you have any sort of things you do to stay grounded, or what do you think, Kieran?
Um, yeah, definitely. I think anyone. I was going to say anyone, no matter how successful they are or how well known they are, you could look at the best sports people in the world, whether you're looking at runners or race car drivers, basketball players. They all have self doubt, no matter how good they are. You've got to be inhuman or mentally ill or something wrong with you if you don't have self doubt. Because even listening to interviews from guys like Kipchoge, and you go and
Mm,
watch Lewis Hamilton
Mm.
drive or Shaq play basketball. You can just pick anyone you like. They all have self doubt. They're all humans. They're all people. They will all go home and probably have a cry or be quite depressed after a bad race. They'll all you know go, I wonder if I can do it tomorrow. What if I can't? Because I think we look at these people sometimes and put them on this pedestal, thinking, oh, they're perfect. They must never doubt themselves, but they definitely do. It's just they've worked maybe harder than other people in how they deal with it. But to answer your question
Mm.
about what I do week to week, I think it's the same as a race. I do, obviously the pressure is different, but I treat it the same way. I try and focus on what I'm doing at the time. Like if I'm doing a session or I'm doing a gym session or a jog, I try and have little small goals that I think about to try and keep me from wondering, what's going to happen in a race in 3 weeks. Even though I do get anxious about that. I've Before Sydney 10 this year, even though I won the race the previous year, I was quite anxious about that and quite worried about that because I hadn't raced for so long, and I was honestly quite terrified. Which sounds strange to say because I think a lot of people would look at me and think, oh, he'd be so chill before that. He won that the previous year. He won state 3K. He'd just be having a laugh. But I was actually quite nervous and quite
mm,
worried. Sometimes it helps other people that are younger than me to, or you newer to the sport to hear that. Just like it helps me to hear someone like Kipchoge or Stuart McSwain is still nervous before a race.
mm,
So when if I'm approaching my gym session, I'm just going to have a couple of little goals that I'm thinking about. And I also try and put things in perspective that one bad session or one bad day does not mean you're going to race badly or it doesn't define you.
mm. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I mean, it's that's why I think there's so much value in these sort of podcasts, or the fact that we now have access to, um, the interviews and stuff like that. Because you're right, like, it's helped me massively just understand that that, I know it sounds corny, it's like you're not alone, sort of thing. We
Yeah,
all,
definitely.
which is, yeah, yeah. Dom, what about you? Now that we're on the topic, how do you sort of view these kind of, um, mental barriers and challenges in training?
Yeah, I think it's tough because like it's those thoughts are always sort of there, and you have to figure out some sort of strategy to overcome them. And um, yeah, I think like Kieran's point before was really good. You can't just sort of ignore it because like you're not really going to get to the bottom of it. You kind of have to come up with something
Mm,
else. to get past it. And I feel like that to put yourself in like the zone that everyone talks about all the time, you kind of have to lean into it, and it's that sort of, yeah, you can feel those feelings, but they don't. You can just sort of, I don't know, they're not really affecting you the same way as like as if you buy into it and really try and go against it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's like whenever I'm like racing, I'm trying to get in that flow sort of state and into the zone. But I don't know, it's easier said than done. But I feel like, yeah, if you're practicing it, and at least you're working towards it, and I don't know, doing something to make it easier to get there. But yeah,
I
I don't
think
know.
I think it's it's a it's a roller coaster. Let's just call it a roller coaster, because then on the other
Definitely.
side of on the other side of the anxiety, if you have like a good race, or if you're in that flow state that you're talking about, Dom, it's almost like you can get, I don't know. Sometimes I felt like, for example, before when I first started, well, within Sydney, I think it was Sydney Harbour 10. We talk about that race a lot, Dom. But I was doing like sort of sessions before, and like not being able to run one sort of K at 3:30, or like struggling. And then like I just felt like I was in the zone during the race, and you can kind of get so much more out of yourself. What what do you think about, how do you view that, Kieran? Like, do you sometimes get in that zone, and especially during those bigger races?
I think all my best races have come from a point where I'm really focused and in that zen or flow state, whatever word you or acronym you want to use, where I'm in my own little world. While I'm aware of what the other people are doing, and I'm conscious of that, so that I can respond to moves in a race, and you know, I guess have an effective race strategy. I'm very much in my own space, and I'm not worried or emotionally affected by what other people are doing, and I'm not looking around, and I guess I'm not affected by whatever is happening. And
Mm,
I've noticed that my poorer races, I'm often looking around more, and I'm, moving around more, and I'm more affected by what's going on. So having that, I guess, spot mental place that you go to when you race, and learning how to stay in that spot no matter what happens, is really important to run well, because that way you're not using as much emotional energy, and you're not affected by what's happening around you. So it's almost like having a shield. So if,
mm,
you could be competing against someone that you don't like, or you might have had something bad happen in your life a few days before, or there could be lots of reasons for you not to compete well, including something that happens during the race. It's having that kind of impenetrable flow state where you're unable to be rocked or unable to be affected, and you're really just focused on what you're doing, and you're doing that really effectively with the minimum amount of emotional energy.
mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
geez, that's a good way to describe it. I mean, sometimes it is hard to describe, because everything kind of just comes together during a good race. It's almost like, the way I would feel is, it's almost like the effort is so much. You're spending so much less effort for the pace that you think is going to be like crazy.
Oh yeah.
Um, um, I've noticed that in the first marathon that I did, like doing a session maybe 4 weeks before, it struggled to get through 14, 15 Ks at that marathon pace, and then you get in the race, and it's feeling not as hard. But yeah, that's interesting. I guess we've gone into some pretty important stuff about, um, call it mental, I guess, mental health of a runner, and what training's actually like and racing's like. So I guess, if you wouldn't mind, can we get into your training as a whole? Like, how do you sort of structure your week, when, you know in terms of days for the sessions and days for long runs, stuff like that?
Sorry, I think I missed half that question. My internet must have dropped it out again.
No,
Sorry.
that's okay, Kieran. All good. I'm just asking, just saying that we went into some good ground on sort of mental tactics and stuff like that. But in terms of how you structure your training, in terms of sessions and
Yeah.
stuff like that, what does your typical week look like, on a good week?
Okay.
How do you like to structure it? That sort of stuff.
So I usually do, to give you a basic outline, I do 2 sessions a week, so if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do like to count my long run as my 3rd session, especially during winter when I feel like it's maybe a slightly more important thing. But I'll usually do a Tuesday session and a Saturday session, and the Tuesday session is based around track. Usually I like it to be a track session or more of a speed-oriented session, and Saturday's longer reps or a tempo. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll take you through the whole week now, so it makes sense. But Monday is usually 1 to 2 jogs, either like a 10 mile or hour, and a shorter one. So it might look like, you know, I say a 30-minute jog, and then I'll do an hour of gym in the morning, and then I'll do an hour to 16 miles at night. Tuesday I'll double in the morning. I usually coach that morning as well, and then I'll do about 8K, 8K jog, 35 minutes, and then I'll do my session at about 6 p.m. at night, either at ES Marks or wherever it may be. That's usually a track session that might look like K reps or 600s, 500s, 400s, 800s, and just kind of stuff with either short recovery or active recovery. Wednesday, I do gym again, along with a 60 to 75-minute run. I'll sometimes split that up into a double of like a hour run and a 30-minute run, depending whether I'm at uni or what I'm doing. Thursday is a
Mm.
midweek long run, so 90 minutes. Friday, I'm in the gym again, and I have a shorter jog day of 45 minutes to an hour. And then Saturday is my longer rep day, so I'll do anything from 4x3k, 4x3k. I could do a long tempo of up to 16k if I'm training for a half, or something like a 10k if it's shorter, or might jump on an XC course or do a hilly tempo, just longer reps. I'll usually double in the afternoon, along with watching my girlfriend play netball, and then Sunday's the long run. It's controversial to say I do like a quicker long run. My coach doesn't always like me doing a quicker long run, but I see a lot of benefit in it, because I think if you're training your body to run at a certain effort level, you don't want to be at too low of a heart rate. But I also do see the role of recovery, because if you're absolutely exhausted or you're racing soon, you definitely don't want to be hammering your long runs, because then you won't recover from your sessions. At the same time, if you're going to race a half or a marathon, or even a lot of the good 10K guys, if you go look at someone like Joe Klecker on Strava, you'll see that his long run is 340 pace for like 32K, and the longest race he's done recently is 10K. So I think
Mm.
there is
Yeah.
value in doing some, even if it's not every Sunday, doing some harder long runs or some hillier long runs, yeah, beneficial. So I'll like to go and, as a fitness test, I'll go run 2 hours on West Head Road, which is over 26 to 30K. You can get 900 meters of elevation on there. The start of that run is a 3 kilometer climb up a very steep
Wow.
hill. So it's I think there's a lot of value in the long run. And one of the things that I have read because I'm studying sports science and strength and conditioning at the moment, one of the things that both Ben and Gary, my coaches at Run Crew, have told me, and that I've read myself, is that a good way of knowing how fit you are, and a good way of, I guess, gaining or losing fitness, is doing your long runs. Because if you're doing your sessions but not your long runs, your back end speed, fitness and speed is not going to be there, no matter how good your sessions are.
Mm.
Mm.
If you aren't missing long runs and you're consistently doing them, that's the insurance policy that you're going to be fit.
Mm.
So that, for me, they're like a third session. They're far more important. I'd rather miss a Saturday arvo jog than a long run, but I hate missing runs in general. I can tell you now that if I miss a run, you'll hear about it, and I will not be happy, because my my girlfriend's just walked past my room and just laughed and given me a look. 'Cause she knows that I'll be complaining about it for the whole day if I miss even a 30-minute jog that's not going to do anything to my fitness. I'm just one of those people that I'm very. Um, she'll tell you this too. I'm obsessed with running. Like I think you have to be if you want to be. If it's your dream and it's what you want to do. Because
Yeah.
I do want to be a professional runner along with my career, the career that I'm studying for. I'm obsessed with running. I talk about running far too much for most people's liking, and I will always never pass up the opportunity to talk about shoes and running. I've got a massive shoe collection. I'll complain forever if I miss a run or have a bad session. It's like the world's ending. I'm not exempt from that at all.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we'll talk about shoes. We'll definitely talk about shoes a bit later. But
Oh, I'm excited already.
the 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 Sunday, because I remember doing like wanting to go out for a long run and like sort of saying, Otto, do you want to come with? And he's always told me sort of similar things to what you're saying, in the sense that you wouldn't do like a big long run is not typically the focus, but I do also see the value in doing that on occasion. Your Saturday sessions look pretty meaty, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So those are the, like you said, the longer um, longer reps. I think in the article we read, you were doing like 3K. One of your favorite sessions was the 3K reps. Do you still? Those are like not. Those are quite hard, right? Are they?
yeah, they are. They're not run at tempo. They run mostly a fair bit quicker, depending on how many I do. But if I at them, we haven't done 3K reps for a while, but usually I like running them quick, especially when I've got guys like Ben and Tom DeCanto around.
Mm,
We've had Ed Goddard around last year a little bit in 2020.
yeah.
He's been in and out and hasn't been around in run crew for a while, but the four and Matt Hudson as well. We'd have a group of 4 or 5 absolutely hammering them, and I remember we'd be finishing some of them around Centennial on the trail in like 8:30 or even
Oh,
8:25.
jeez.
Like we'd be seriously going for it, and some of my best races have come after doing lots of like 3x3K or 4x3K. There's one of them where I remember I was literally thinking I'm not going to finish this because we started our first 3K rep at like 6:30, 7 a.m. in the morning, and a cold winter's day was like 8:40 or 8:45 or something, and they got quicker and quicker too. I think we were in the 8:20s by the last one on.
Jesus.
In a
It's
session.
crazy.
Oh.
I think that the quickest one I would have done would have been 3x3K off 600 jog in like started off around maybe 8:45 or 8:40, and then the next one was 8:30 or 8:32, and then it was like 8:20 something. I've definitely run a 3K there in like 8:15 or something, or 8:20.
My
I
gosh.
know
Fuck
because
me.
we do a fastest lap of the white fence competition. So I don't know where the list is, but there's actually a record for the quickest lap ever of Centennial Park. And there's only 1 or 2 guys that have ever gone under 10 minutes, which, to give you a reference, is I think 2:45 or 2:46 pace around the white fence, including the hill.
Wow.
Oh my god. I think my PB is 11:30 for reference.
My PB is probably
Yeah,
14
that's insane.
something.
Mine was 9:57 or 9:58 for a lap.
Oh wow, that's insane.
I think the second place is either Ben or Tom DeCanto, a few seconds behind, and then I think the next quickest after that is probably James Niparis. Or
Oh
I
wow,
don't want to know what
that's insane.
Mottram's done though, because I haven't heard what he's done. So he definitely have something in the nines,
Yeah.
undoubtedly. But I know there are other guys that
Mm,
like MTC guys that haven't broken 10. So I think that's probably one of my highlights, even though it was unofficial. If I'd run like that in the 3K, probably would have run 7:45 to be honest, in the shape I was in then. But
Yeah.
yeah.
got to claim it. It's on Strava, so it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. How much do you feel it helps having those guys to run with you in those sessions? Like, I imagine you're all kind of just hammering and on those reps.
I think it makes it a lot more fun, definitely, and I really, really enjoy having quick people to train with. But it's lots of fun. Actually takes the pressure off rather than putting it on, because you're not looking at your watch going, am I running fast enough today? Am I doing enough? Should I
Mm.
be running quicker?
Mm,
You're not getting home. I mean, I do this a lot, but I'll get home and look at my splits for hours and go, have I done enough today? What has everyone else done? Am I doing enough? Even though Ben is telling me I'm doing enough, I'm a bit of an overthinker when it comes to running. So it's definitely really helpful,
yeah,
both from a
definitely.
mental perspective and from a fitness perspective of pushing yourself to have those guys around. And I miss having them around because Ben's been a bit in and out with injury lately, and he's come back, which has been great. Tom's been out for a while because start of the year he got hit by a car,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
Yeah.
is devastating, and he probably, I reckon, would have made Com Games marathon the way he was going. He's in fantastic form,
He was on
so
fire.
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to having Tom back. Some of the younger guys have been away, like Kieran Rushton had a stress fracture as well, so we've been missing a bit of the group. So I'm looking forward to having some of those guys back.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I guess what's your within that training? What's kind of your favorite session what do you normally gravitate towards in terms of enjoyment?
Um, Either something like if there's a day where all the big boys turn up and I'm doing 3x3K with Tom DeCanto and Benny and Matt Hudson when he's back and Ed and even when if guys from another group came in, I reckon that's a ripper session to have fun with. I think it'd
Mm,
be more fun on the road to be honest because you can really just go for it. Otherwise, I'd say it's
Mhm.
some kind of track session. Either doing something like K reps or quarters or 2K reps on the track, something where you get to, when you obviously it's more fun when you fit, but when you're fit and you're with your mates and you're really having a dig, I think something like a quick track session is just great fun to really have a go and see what you're made of, and you're not really thinking about how fast you should be running because you're racing and
mm,
you just you're just putting in an effort and you're helping your teammates out and you're helping yourself, and it's fun, it's competitive, and there's no pressure there to really go, am I running quick enough? Looking down at your watch, is that a 68 or a 69 lap of the track? What should I be doing? You're just running, and you're
yeah.
running for the enjoyment of
Mm.
running. So any
Mm,
session like that, I love.
yeah, I think that's a good point. Actually, reflecting on some of the sessions I've done, especially with Dom,
Mhm.
where we're like, for example, Dom, those ones in Meadowbank when we're not worrying about like I won't be
Yeah.
worrying about the watch. I'll literally just be trying to keep up, um, sort of thing. So it's because yeah, sometimes especially training because I train on my own quite a bit. One thing that's been helpful is like focusing on um, only having one metric being power as opposed to I've talked about it quite a lot on the podcast, but just having power to focus on lets me sort of narrow in. But yeah, I guess an extra level on top of that would be to be training with fast guys or stuff like that, which is where the training partners comes in for sure. What do you how I guess how's your training changed over time? Like as you've gotten more experience and stuff like that.
Uh, I think I've learned about the importance of consistency over individual good sessions because I've been known in the past to absolutely hammer sessions either to prove to myself that I'm fit or because I'm a competitive person. I hate losing more than anything. And it's not just in running, in absolutely everything I do, I'm very competitive. Always have been. I thought high school and primary school PE was the Olympics. If I went back and did that, I would probably still do the same. Um, Everything I do, I put 100% in, which is a nice quality to have, but I think sometimes it shoots me in the foot. Um, so, yeah, regarding sessions, I've probably actually slowed down a little bit sometimes and listened to my body more
Mm,
rather than and I've had to battle with my own head to try and accept when things don't go well in sessions and not to place so much importance on them. But I've probably placed more importance on consistency, and I've done a lot more gym recently too. So I think that's a big change for me, and I found that very beneficial. So I'm in the gym lifting fairly heavy 3 times a week, and that's something that's helped my kick in races a lot and helped bulletproof me against injuries. Although I can't really talk right now because I'm injured, but at the same time, I think I've probably missed out on a whole lot of stress fractures and other injuries, and my way forward and my way of repairing my body will be from strengthening it rather than simply just sitting on my ass and resting and feeling sorry for myself. Strengthening it is something that's going to help a lot.
mm,
Other than that,
Mm.
I like to be specific with what I do in training when I can be. So when it comes to a long run or a tempo, I like to pay attention to my heart rate. I'm going to get some more testing soon regarding VO2 and blood lactate threshold, but definitely just from like a session perspective, I'm always looking at splits, and I like to have a really specific purpose that
mm,
I go into in terms of like I want to do K reps in a certain speed, or I want to I like to keep to the objective of a session rather than using it as an ego boost, which is, I think,
mm.
as a young kid, I'll be honest, I think most young people do it, including myself. I was very guilty of wanting to run a fast session to either impress myself or impress other people or for an ego boost for Strava. I'll still do it for Strava. I can't lie. Like if you're talking of Strava segment, I'll go for it if you know I think I've started to see training as lots of little building blocks to a bigger picture,
Mm,
rather than putting too much hype or focus on a single thing, which is what I've done in the past. So it's use it as a learning process and look to more long term. Because there's a famous quote, I've forgotten who said it, but a lot of people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade.
mm,
And it's the same with running, because I haven't done running for that long, although I've been around the scene for a while. I've only been a runner for a couple of years and had a lot of interruptions and a lot of missed consistency. So I've started to look at running as a more long term thing and look at as, what can I do when I'm in 2 or 3 years' time? What can I do when I'm 27, 28, 29, 30? Because that might be if I do want to make the Olympics, but I might be waiting till then if I can make it. It might not be the next Commonwealth Games or Olympics, because sometimes it takes you many years to master something, and we're all doing a different journey, and we're all facing different types of adversity, and all got different lives. So what works for one person and someone's timeline might be different to someone else. Some people finish uni at 25, some finish at 20, some at 30. Some people get their dream job or make the Olympics at 25, some are 40. Like, there was that British guy that ran the marathon, that's a dad that won the Olympic trials and made his first Olympics in Com Games when he was like a dad in his like late 30s or something, and had been his dream since he was my age. So it shows that I'm trying to tell myself to look at running long term and try and focus on my own timeline rather than other people's.
mm. That's that's got to be one of the key distinctions, because you're right. Like, how how do you know? It's not a linear. It doesn't feel like a linear process. Like, every year you get a little bit better, but so
Amateur
it's like,
pros,
yeah, you
it's
can't
great
tell.
for sport.
Yeah, because you just can't tell when the fitness is going to come. Like I've said before, that I felt like I plateaued for a year, and then the fitness starts coming together. But I mean, it's a mixture of. You're right. Patience is so important, especially coming from. It's nice to hear it coming from someone as fast as yourself. Where we're sort of like, you always look up to runners like yourself and be like, um, you know, it just feels like the next fitness level feels so far away sometimes.
Tell you, I feel like that right now. I feel like my own fitness level that I was at around like Sydney 10 and State 3K last year feels a world away. And I, if it makes you guys feel any better, I plateaued for years. From about 2017 till probably end of 2019, I didn't run a PB in anything at all.
Mm,
Nothing. I was
Jeez.
I was stuck for years, and I was really struggling with it with my mental health because of that. Even now, like, I go a long time between PBs, and I think sometimes it's because of COVID or lack of racing opportunities. There's lots of different reasons, but running is not linear, and sometimes it's a real tough sport, because at the end of the day, you're going home by yourself, and you're often overanalyzing things, and no matter what level you're at, running is not linear, and it sometimes takes years to get to where you want to go. That you might to something that might have you thought, oh, this is going to take months. I'm going to run up this PB in a couple of months, and you might take 3 years to get there. But then another 2 months after that PB, you might run another minute PB. It's a
mm,
really hard sport to predict, because people don't realize that every little bit of your life affects running.
yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Not just what you do in training, and not even your sleep. Every little thing can affect you. So sometimes you can do all the right things in running, but something else can take over.
I think that's
100%.
a great point. Like, I think you've got the key. You got the key attitude element, is you're aware, like
Yeah.
you're aware that it's going to take a long time.
Yeah,
You're ready. You're ready to sort of suffer through training and keep going no matter what. Like, those ingredients, I mean, are the recipe, in my view, at least, for success long term. It's just you just don't know. You just don't know when it's going to come together. Um, um, so so to hear that, it's like, mate, you're going to smash it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you got any plans like to travel overseas and have a bit of a crack at it, or um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, look, no concrete plans yet. I've been wanting to. I was con- like on the flip side, actually considering it a little bit this year, until I got injured and had a lot of interruptions
Yeah.
this to be honest, the last year and a half has been very frustrating for me with both lower back and hip injuries. I feel like I've
Yeah,
gotten
it's
fit,
tough.
had probably 2 or 3 good races, and then gotten injured again, and it's probably happened 3 or 4 times in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very frustrating. So I've kind of gotten to the stage where I've gone, oh wow, I've just had a really good race, had another good race, and then I go, oh, I'll start looking at going overseas, and then I get injured instead. So I think once I can put together 6 months of really consistent good racing, then I'll go overseas and race because it'll be worth it because I know that I've mastered that consistency aspect, and I've kind of broken away from that cycle of injury and inconsistency. So hopefully, look,
Yeah.
current plan is I'm looking into it next year, and I'd love to go and race some 5Ks and some 10Ks. Look at something like Stanford, or even like a road race. I'm not sure what distance I'd go for because I'm enjoying the shorter stuff at the moment. Definitely, probably a 5K and a 10K on the track, and something like Carlsbad 5,000 would be cool.
Yeah, that was sick.
Mm.
Yeah.
I definitely want to do it, and I think there's a lot of value in it, and I probably would have done it this year if I hadn't gotten injured. But next year, I'm probably going to plan for it. I'd say it's just difficult because I am still at uni, so I've got to factor that in and factor money in as well because I'm not able to work full time because I'm studying full time uni and running. So there's not much time left, and if I was to use every hour of the day to either work, run, or study, I would have my running would go to crap because I wouldn't have the energy to recover.
Mm.
Yeah.
Definitely going to go
Yeah.
overseas for sure.
Um,
Definitely. No, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you can get over there
Thank
very
you.
soon. Yeah.
well, did have a question back on the training element. I guess what have you learnt from being coached by Benny Saint and the sort of the run crew guys, just in general?
Oh gosh, there's a lot there. I'll try and summarize. I'll give you a few interesting things.
Yeah.
I think as a kid or as a young runner when I was 18, 19, I used to think everyone's path was the same to get somewhere.
Mm.
Um, and I used to think, if someone like Jack Rayner or Stewie or Mottram is doing this, I have to do exactly that. And I learned pretty quickly from Ben and Gary and Katie, and just from the other guys there that that's not the case. Because, as you know, Ben, you probably know this, but Ben's journey is quite different to most people's. He was not, training and competing when he was my age or a bit younger, and he actually made a massive life change and decided that he wanted to pursue running, and he only started really doing that around my age. He
Mm.
was he will tell you this himself that he was fat and doing all sorts of mischief at this age. So he made a massive life change. So at the same time, you look at even some of the people that are doing it now that have had a lot of injuries or a lot of setbacks, and they've managed to find their way through them. So I've one of the main takeaways from Ben and that group is that you might have the same goal as someone, but no two people's process is the same, or the recipe is not the same even if the outcome is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as like the easy runs. Ben still sometimes tells me about this when I don't quite do what he says because I like running fast. Same as Ed last week that you spoke to. We both love running quick on our
Yeah.
easy runs. Ed even more than me. We both love a fast long run. Um, there's an infamous story where we both, not Ed, but me and another mate and Ed did a fast long run on West Ed Road at 3:40 pace for 32K. Um,
Jeez.
and this was 6 days before a 10K time trial. That was really smart.
Did you get an angry message?
Yep. Um, yep, I did. Uh, I predicted it too. I literally looked at Ed and looked at my other mate, and we all looked at each other at the same time and said, how long till we get a message from Ben? And as we were in the car driving up the hill on the way home from the run, bang, 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 all in succession of about 10 seconds, we all got this paragraph from Ben about why we shouldn't run fast on easy runs. It was quite comical. And then Ben thought it would be funny to comment, "Hey mate, didn't realize you were doing a marathon. You meant to let your coach know this," and I wasn't. Funny. And the first thing I did was send it to Otto actually, and he thought it was absolutely hilarious and reminded me of it for the next year. So yes, easy run. One of the main takeaways about easy runs that even elite athletes get wrong is there is some benefit in running faster, you definitely don't want to run too slow on your easy runs, particularly your long runs, but they are an effort level thing. They're not a pace thing. And you do need to look at what else you're doing in your day. So one of the things Ben taught me is that if you've had a massive day at work, you don't need to try and chase on an easy run. You don't need to go, okay, well, I want to run the same speed as Jack Rayner, for example, for 10K in a year. So if he's running 4:07s for his 15K run today, I need to do the same because he's had a different day to you. And
Mm.
your Wednesday this week might be different to your Wednesday next week. So sometimes I will jog at 5-minute Ks. Sometimes I'll jog at 4-minute Ks or 350s or 340s. So it just depends on effort level and how I'm feeling and what the purpose of the run is. Whereas I used to just go for it and go, oh, if I can't run 4:10s today, there's a problem. Whereas sometimes I'll have worked a long day, or I've been at uni all day, or I'll be exhausted from a session, or I've had a bad night's sleep, or not had a good diet, or the occasional night out or something. And I've learnt to realize that training is more about long-term consistency, and I've only really learnt that recently. You'd be surprised. I've more existed on talent and short bursts of hard work rather than long-term consistency in the past. So still mastering it.
Mm. That's it's hard when you get competitive on those longer runs, or when you're feeling good
Yeah,
specifically, and you
I've
just
seen
want to
it.
let it go.
Yeah.
Hey mate, why is there a 2:45 kilometer in your long run? 20K. What was that about? And why was there a 2:55 before it? Why was the last 600 meters 2:38 pace? And
Jeez.
why was your first K up a hill under 4-minute Ks? And why is there a photo of you running in next percents on it as well? Because Ed wore his race shoes and I wore my race shoes, and we did a long run. So I think we both knew what was going to happen. And
Yeah.
it's quite funny. I won't name who it is, but one of my mates actually pulled out of the long run once he knew that Ed and I were both doing it because he knew what was going to happen. He goes, I wanted to run 4:30s, and that's not going to happen, is it? And Ed we go, oh, we could start off maybe around there. And he goes, no, I'm not.
At least he was self-aware.
Oh, and I think Ed and I were both self-aware. We knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, true.
There's literally a picture of me with splitties, shirtless, middle of winter. Ed and I are both shirtless in splitties with race shoes and arm sleeves and like our sunnies on. I think someone took a photo of us on because they rode next to us instead of running because they didn't want to run because they knew it was going to happen again. And it's just this infamous photo of us smiling and looking at each other, knowing we're both going to, go for it up the next hill. It can be good training. I think there's nothing wrong with doing that occasionally because it's part of enjoying running. But
Yeah.
I don't think people that do long runs with me always enjoy it, and sometimes I've struggled to find people to do long runs with because I run them too fast, and I've kind of shot myself in the foot because I've literally got comments on my Strava if you go look saying, "Hey, I'm glad I didn't run with you today." And sometimes they stack up, and there's like 20 of them on a post. Like I'll have messaged all my mates going for a long run, and they go, how are you going to run today? And I go, oh, just decent pace. They go, no, not happening. Sorry.
Oh.
And like if I say I'm going easy, I might be lucky. My definition of easy and theirs is different. So, and that my key tool now is if I'm taking my girlfriend with me on my long run, they know that I'll run slower because she makes me run slower, and I don't want to be single because I love her. So if I'm doing a fast long run, she won't come with me either, and she'll just say good luck. But if I'm doing a 4:30, 4:40 pace long run for like 20, 25K, Ali, my girlfriend, will come with some of it, and then I might get some people coming with me. But sometimes no.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was training for second marathon, going out with Dom at Narrabeen. Absolute trouble. I don't think, but I think we were gonna go hard, but there's something about like Dom when he's like charging ahead, and I'm just trying to catch him. Do you remember those long runs, Dom? You almost killed me.
Yeah, sometimes you just get in that
No,
headspace
Ali,
where
I
you
don't
just
want
want
to
to
live
go.
gloss. Sorry, my girlfriend just put lip gloss at me. I was asking her for my protein shake, to hand me my protein shake, and she just handed me a lip gloss. That does not make me run faster. What part of like it's not has it got I mean is it EPO lip gloss or like anabolic steroid lip gloss? No, I don't want it. I don't want that either, but like I just wanted my protein shake and trying to hand me all sorts of useless stuff.
Oh, that's good.
Interruption.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
No, I think those long runs are incredibly fun sometimes, for sure. Like,
I agree. I
Sometimes.
want to do another
Yeah.
one soon. Sorry, Ben.
no, no. I remember also on the flip side feeling, but because I was training for a marathon, that was actually kind of like the key workout.
Oh
Was
yeah,
it was going out and absolutely smashing myself for whatever we go out for. Dom and I, like 32 Ks at like for the level we're at, quick. And I actually had the benefit when I was training with Dom to have someone like much fitter. Then I would always have to stretch my own fitness, which
I love
was
that. I
Mm.
love that competitive aspect of running. It's my favorite thing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
but I think those kind of long runs got me pretty fit towards the end, like really pushing hard. Especially for the marathon, you need that. What I found at least is you need to do that stretching in training, and it helps with the mental
100%.
aspect as well. Especially like pushing
Mm.
the last
It's
I don't know
crazy.
5 Ks of a long run when you're really starting to really starting to hurt. But yeah, it'd be hard someone that's as fast as yourself having to go
I,
slow
I,
and then
I was gonna
going out
say
with
it's not often I
Ed
get pushed
Goddard
in
and
sessions these
trying to keep
days.
it
I'm
tame.
usually running
We all
most of
know
them
that's
on my
just
own
not going to
because Ben
happen.
hasn't done
So
all of them,
anyway,
and
um,
especially in the speed. Sorry, you lose me there.
huh?
Did you lose me there, or could you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear. I think it might cut. You might have cut out for a
Sorry
second.
about that. Yeah, I was
No,
gonna
that's all right.
say I'm running a lot of sessions on my own these days, so
Yeah.
I'm and I love running with people, both long runs and sessions and jogs, and so that competitive aspect definitely makes you quicker. And if anyone ever wants to race me on a long run or run 340 pace on a long run, I would love it. Love nothing more.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ben. I just like running fast on long runs. There's something special about it.
I might join you for a if I ever need to do a 3K time trial, I'll come out on one. I'll come out on one of your long runs.
Yep. Otto and I have done some good long runs around the bay run. Actually, we've done a few quick long runs.
Oh yeah, well, we might be able to go out sometime. I'll be
Yeah.
trailing. I'll be trailing. Um. What do you reckon, Dom, about long runs? Those kind of big pushes.
Yeah, I think I think I agree with Kieran. Like I kind of like just something about the feeling of a fast long run, like where you can actually kind of open up for a long period of time, like and I don't know, you don't have to be killing yourself, but just kind of rolling at a pace where it feels good. Like I feel like if you're just out there jogging around, you can just feel a bit kind of meh and doughy, and you don't really get that nice feeling that you get from running
Yeah.
fast.
Mm.
It's more
Yeah.
fun if you go flat out at the end though, because you're racing and it's like you feel like
Yeah.
the feeling of dropping someone on a long run. You feel like an absolute king, and
Oh
you
yeah.
go and look at your Strava and you go, oh look at that! I ran a 250 last K in a long run, and then you go,
Yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah, I remember. Actually, towards the end of one of the runs on Narrabeen, Dom would do this thing where he would run ahead
Terry
for a
Hill's easy.
kilometer, and then I'd be catching up, absolutely cooking myself, and he'll be doing fucking push-ups just to
As
G
you
me
come
up
around
as
the
I come
corner.
around the corner.
Yeah, I remember that
Yeah,
one.
that was a good trick, Dom. Made me feel really good about myself. Oh, but that was good. It was
It's like
good. Kept me on my toes.
doing a session with your mates
Yeah.
and you go, oh, how was that? And I'm like, they're asking you how you go, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's pretty chill, felt good, and they're like, they're almost throwing up. Done that easy. I'm like, oh, sorry, yeah. Taper session.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, we've covered off a lot about training, so thank you for that insight. The I guess I think we've covered off. I think we've talked a lot about it, but I guess what going into hard training or just the day to day training, what is it kind of? I guess what do you like overall about training? Like what do you feel it gives you in your life? I know it's a little bit deep of a question,
That's
but
a deep question, but I can give it a go. I think firstly, running gives me a sense of purpose, and when I'm training, I feel like I'm always training for something, and I'm always reaching for a goal and putting those little building blocks and those things in place. And it's a habit. I've always prided myself on looking after my body and being competitive at something. So it's a sense of purpose. It's a reason to get up, and it's good for my mental health. It's good for my physical health. Being competitive is something I enjoy. I enjoy the sport for the most part, even when it is kicking me down like it is at the moment, being injured. Yeah, it's just a sense of excellence and being good at something. I'm always that kind of person that can't be average or be a normal person. Yeah, it sounds corny to say, but I like being the best at something, and I like being competitive and doing my best and going all out. That's kind of I'm an all or nothing person. Whether
mm,
it's my uni, my music when I'm doing a bit of rapping at the moment, my running, when I go and drive on the racetrack, because occasionally I go to a rally course or a racetrack and drive race cars. It's all or nothing. That's just who I am, and
mm,
I think running is a big part of my life, not just because I like it. It's because it represents who I am, and it is a big part of my sense of self as well. When I'm running well, I think more of myself than when I'm not running well. And yes, that's not always healthy, and that's why I try and do other things in my life and try and still have a social life, still occasionally go out and be with my friends and my family and go and, I have uni going and I have music going and I love fashion as well. And I'm working on my own clothing label at the moment. So I've got a lot of different
oh
things
wow,
going, but
nice.
running is something that's a big part of me because I guess it's represents who I am, being competitive and working towards a bigger goal. And it's, I've always got a reason to I've always got something on in the day. I
Mm,
never have a day in my life where I don't know what I'm doing the day before because I've always got a run on.
yeah.
I hate having days off. I feel like I haven't accomplished anything if I haven't, done something or spent a few hours trying to achieve a goal I have, whether it is running related or not. I just feel like I always want to spend the day doing something that's going to make me feel like, I guess, fulfilled.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, um, yeah, I think even if just looking at my own sort of life when I've added in running, it just adds in a completely an extra layer, call it, to your life, and it does tie into that, like, because it's a gradual. I find it's like a gradual process of getting better. So it's kind of like it's almost like chasing that next bit of fitness can be addictive in a sense, but also extremely.
Mm.
I think Dom, you've talked about this. It's like so much goes into training, like so much sort of effort and call it pain and what do they say, blood, sweat, and tears or whatever it is, but goes into training for a race. It's something you look back on and you're just proud of yourself when you put it all together. I think, but
Mm.
um, yeah, what is what's you got your own fashion? You your own
Coming along.
going along.
Yeah.
What you want to give us a bit of insight into that?
It's very, very early stages. Like I'm not selling anything, or I'm only just starting to design some things now. It's a very new thing, but
Mm.
I'm looking at doing a few kind of pieces of casual clothing.
Oh yeah.
Um, I'm very, very into fashion. Um, I have more clothes than my girlfriend and my mum combined, which is very unusual for a guy. I love my shoe collection is even worse. I've got probably 30 to 40, probably 30, at least 30 to 35 pairs of casual shoes and even more running shoes than that. Like when I cleaned out my room earlier start of this year, I had over 100 shoe boxes.
Oh jeez.
Jeez.
And that was from the last couple of years. So some of them are running shoes I've gone through, but I go through a lot of shoes and that, yeah, I'm looking at hopefully sometime this year, at least releasing a few things.
Mm.
But I think music is a bigger focus for me at the moment, along with I'm on my uni break, so I've got some time now to do some other things, and I'm always doing something new.
Yeah.
As Otto would tell you that too. I'm always, doing something that's crazy or out of this world, and that's,
Yeah.
I don't like being normal and just working a normal job and doing nothing else. nothing wrong with that, but I'm always the kind of person that's got a new idea and wants to try something new. But
That
yeah, hopefully I'll have some stuff to show you guys in a few months
yeah,
comes
Yeah,
along.
definitely.
that'll be awesome. I think having you can't sort of have that one thing, right? Like
No,
the fact that you've got all those different elements is is great. Like
Yeah.
it adds so much more. If you just had running, I think. Do you think maybe I don't know? You could it can be the only focus, and it might be a little bit overwhelming. So
definitely.
yeah. Oh, keen to see that how that comes along for sure.
I think for me, I would put way too much pressure on myself with running. I mean, I just still do that anyway, but I think it's good to have more than one thing going in your life. So when something is not going well, like running is not going the best for me right now because of my injury, I've got other things to fall back on. Like I've just finished a term at uni and I'm happy with how I've gone there. So I can still look back and go, okay, I've done uni well and I'm focusing day to day on recovery. I can go and put some more time into my music and into other goals I have while that I'm not able to run as much. So
Mm,
having, I think you can definitely overdo it and burn out and do too much, but at the same time, as long as you're self aware and you're still having that downtime, which is something I'm not actually really not good at because I'm always doing something. I can never switch off. I haven't got an off switch.
yeah,
Um, I'll come home after doing, eight, being at uni for 8 to 10 hours. I'll have done gym and a run in the morning. I'll do a run after that. I'll have dinner and then I'll start writing music just because I can't switch off even though I'm exhausted.
yeah.
I
What?
think
Yeah.
having a
Sorry.
balance is good.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off, Kieran. The what do you see like your running habits sort of and the way you approach training come across in sort of all those other elements as well, including the grit and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so. Like there's definitely elements of it that translate, um, both in terms of being competitive and that factor of resilience and seeing things as long term. I think that those kind of things do come across because I'm competitive in everything, as I've said before.
Yeah.
I think certainly with some things I do, I'm not as passionate about as running.
Yep.
Um, and I've also got I try and balance things because if I put too much effort into uni, then running suffers, or vice versa. So I think learning to balance things and having good time management is really important.
Mm,
But I hate not giving my all to anything. If I choose to do something, I feel like I'm obliged to give my all, both to the people you know as out of respect to the people around me that invest in me and to myself. Because if I'm going to invest the time in myself, I want to make the most of that time because it's limited. You can
mm,
always They say you can always have money's replaceable, but time's not. You're never going to get the time back. So if you're going to put time into something, I want to make the most of it. Whether it is handing in a uni essay or writing a song or you know just spending a day relaxing, I want to do it properly and just if I'm having a day off, I want to enjoy it and have fun and not think about my uni or my running or anything. And if I'm going to go out and do a race, I'm going to give my best. If I'm submitting something for uni, I'll do my best. So
mm,
it's the same attitude to everything. I want to give my all to it and make the people around me that invest in me proud, whether it's friends or family or coaches or sponsors or whatever that may be.
mm. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Um, um, can we talk a little bit about shoes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell
What
me
would that
what are you in terms of training? What do you like to train in? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So for my easy jog days, I rotate between Invincibles, uh, Tempo Next Percents, and Nova Blasts at the moment. I've been in and out of the newer Vomeros as well. I also open to trying new things, but I love the tempos for a faster long run.
Mm,
Otherwise, I don't think tempos are great to use too much, just because they have got a TPU plate and still got the Zoom AirPods in, so they're a little bit harder on the body
Mm.
and they're a bit of a firmer shoe. I'm loving the Nova Blast at the moment, so I'm using them for a lot of my jogs. I was using Invincibles a lot. They're worn out, so I'm due for a whole lot of new jogging shoes. But they're my main kind of three or four. I used to jog in Pegasus a lot before all those the new stuff and came out. Then the Infinities. I think I like the Invincible a bit more than the Infinity because it is softer. But there is something to
Mm.
be said for rotating and running in different types of shoes, including traditional old stuff like Pegasus and Vomero, to keep your body strong and keep not put too much pressure on one different thing, because a lot of new injuries are coming about from using carbon plated shoes and shoes with the rocker sole and rocker formation.
Yep.
I've worked in a shoe shop for a number of years, and I actually did a course through Nike with a podiatrist called Simon Bartold, and he gave us a lot of knowledge and insight on how shoes relate to biomechanics and injuries and what like. Look, I'm just a shoe nut, so I love shoes.
Yeah.
Lots of great chats with Tom DeCanto about shoes. So
Yeah.
I think rotation is really important. So I always rotate, and I always try and use a bit of everything depending on where I'm going. But they're probably my main 3 or 4 joggers. And then if you want training shoes for like sessions, I'll rotate between Next Percents, Alphas, Dragonflies. When I'm on the track, I try and use spikes as much as I can to try and strengthen my feet and strengthen my calves and my legs. So if I am on the track, unless I have coming back from an injury, I'll try and use spikes, even if it is literally like 10 by a K or a 5 by a 2K, 3 by 3K on the track. I'll put spikes on.
Dude.
Otherwise, it'd be Next Percents. Longer tempo on the road, sometimes Alphas. Use Next Percents. I'll use some cross country spikes if you're on a cross country course, or even just some flats like some Adidas old school racing flats, or even the Skechers racing flats. I've got a shoe for everything.
What's your how much do you think the super shoes or the carbon plated shoes give you an edge? Like, do you notice a big difference?
I think they actually help with recovery more than speed, because from the science I've seen, yes, they are marginally faster, but the percentage of energy return they give you is compromised by the extra weight, say compared to another racing flat, because a lot of the studies you'll see will say the Next Percent is 4% faster or 5% faster or whatever figure they might give you. However, I don't think they've really tested them over enough of a group or a big enough group to really say for sure, because it depends on your running form. So some people will get marginal gains, some people have bigger gains depending on your gait. So if you've got a natural bounce, something like a Next Percent or Alpha is not going to help you as much as someone that's a road runner and has less of a bounce. They they do make you faster, undoubtedly. You can't dispute that, and everyone's using them for a reason. But one of the main things they do is slow down the rate of fatigue in your legs, both in terms of during the race and recovery. So it's allowing people to back up and race more and avoid injuries. So yeah, that's my take on them. I think I like them, and innovation and changes in technology is great for our sport, and we need to embrace it. And I've never understood the people that are against them, saying, well, they should be illegal, they're cheating, because the shoes we ran in 5 years ago were a lot faster than the ones we ran in 20 years ago. And I'd actually go as far to say that the gap between the shoes that you ran in the 1950s and the 1980s and the 2000s is much bigger than the Next Percents versus, say, your Nike, just Streak 6 or Streak 7. There's a gap, but there's going to be a gap, and in 20 years, there's going to be something else. So I think technology is great, and as long as as long as it's an equal playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the main thing. If everyone has access, then
Yeah,
I mean, the more innovation, the better, I guess.
definitely, as long as everyone can have it. And I've seen instances where we don't, because I've raced in races where people have been running in prototype shoes that are much faster. Like Zatopek would have been 2019. Most of us were in the Next Percent, and there were guys in Dragonflies that had access to the prototype, and I kind of felt that was a little bit unfair, because some of us couldn't have them. Like I couldn't have them. I still couldn't have them because I'm not a fully sponsored athlete. Don't have a sponsor. I'd love one, but don't quite have one yet. So, there are guys racing in prototypes, and when you don't have access to those, it is kind of frustrating when you've done everything you can and your training might be the same.
Yeah. Well, I think that's right. It's about the playing field being equal, as opposed to, because you hear a lot about. I think when the alpha when was it when the alpha flies came out, there was a big fuss about the
Oh yeah,
shoes. What there was a particular I can't remember what it was. Uh, I don't know. I just saw in the media people were saying like these should be banned. I can't remember what sparked it specifically, but
there'll always be
think I
someone hating on the new technological development or the new track team. There's
yeah.
yeah,
always someone that'll. I've learned this the hard way from I guess, venturing into the league of professional sport, and from making some money from running and starting to get some like offers of sponsorship deals, or of working with different brands and winning more races. There's always going to be someone that doesn't like you, or thinks that you're doping, or thinks that you're fake, or thinks that the shoes you're wearing are helping you, or
Mm.
wants to you know bring you down. And same can be said with the next percents of the alphas. There's always going to be some critic that will be jumping up and down for some reason. It's often more to do with them than the issue at hand, unless
Mm.
they've got a legitimate
Mm.
case. Because if there's someone out there that's doping and there's evidence, obviously that they should be jumping up and down. But there's also lots of people that are quite clearly very legitimately good runners through hard work, and there'll always be someone that goes, "Oh, they're good, they're doping," just because they're jealous, or they don't like
Mm.
the shoes because their people are running faster than they did, and it's just jealousy. So
Yeah.
often more about them than you. When I've had people say to me, "Oh, I think you're doping," or "Oh, you ran in next percents." I'm like, "Yeah, everyone else did too." Like, there's always
Mm.
someone that's got a problem with you, but it's got to focus on yourself.
100%. I think there's
Mm.
like you said, there's a lot more behind that. Um, and it doesn't normally have anything to do with you. So yeah, that's a
Oh,
good point.
I've seen lots of athletes, including myself, get a lot of hate or a lot of jealousy. Um, it's happened. It happens to when you've got people that dislike you and are talking shit about you. You're doing something right.
Yeah.
And you just gotta laugh and think, wow, they haven't got much going for them if they're just talking about me. That's I coach kids at school, and some of them have started to do well in their school cross country, or make state for the first time, and even just teaching them about how to deal with bullies and stuff like that. It's the same thing as realizing that it's more about them than you, and about looking inwards and focusing on yourself, and realizing that if you've got someone that dislikes you, or you know that they're talking about you all the time, it's gee, you're doing something right, and you're doing well. You've got to remember that if you're not doing anything worth talking about, they wouldn't be talking about you.
Mm. That's a
Mm.
great point.
It's a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Um, Dom, what do you reckon? You got a question? Oh, we normally ask about nutrition. That's the one thing I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah. You've mentioned nutrition a couple of times already. But yeah, it'd be interesting if you've got any hot takes there, or how your diet sort of changed, or if you've put much attention to it. I don't know. Everyone's got their own little
Yeah,
quirks,
yeah. Diet's
usually.
very important. Um, I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat any meat. I
Oh,
don't
wow.
have any cow's milk either, because I find I just don't go well on it. That's more of just it doesn't work for me.
Mm.
It makes my stomach die, basically. But
Yeah.
um,
Mm.
yeah, I would say that my main focus of my diet is more about getting enough carbs and protein and fueling myself the right way. And there's work to do there, definitely, especially when I'm busy at uni and trying to run after, uh, rather than eating clean. Because I see a lot of people worried, oh, I have to just not eat too much, or I'm never going to eat chips or pancakes or pizza. I love all that food. I eat plenty of it. I'm not. My diet is not excessively clean. I would say that all my meals are pretty healthy most of the time, and I'm always focused on
Mm.
making sure I get enough carbs and protein, and drinking enough water and hydrating, and all that stuff. But I've got no shame in saying that I love pizza. I love going out for dinner, or having biscuits or dessert. I have dessert a fair bit. It's just about fueling your body and eating enough, rather than
Yeah.
worrying about you know how you might look compared to other people.
Mm.
100%. Yeah. I think like if you're fueling yourself properly and you're going to run faster,
Exactly.
like doesn't really matter what you look like. Yeah. Um, no, that's a good take. And you said you're vegetarian. Is that more like personal reasons, or performance wise, or a bit
Bit
of
of both,
both?
to be honest. Like I love, like I do have my own ethical reasons, but I think it does work. The diet works for me as well, and I find that both my stomach and digestive system doesn't deal well with animal products, especially milk. Never really eaten meat, so I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you about that, but it just works for me. My whole family is. It's ethical as well. Like I just don't like hurting animals or hurting anyone really. I mean, I and
Mm.
on the flip side, it'd be a funny thing to say, but I do a bit of martial arts and self defense, and I've learned that. I got a boxing bag at home, but that's purely for self defense and exercise, and for having the skill if it's ever needed. But always been someone that doesn't like hurting anyone or anything. It's just my personal view. I kind of like just doing my own thing and helping people where I can.
Yeah, it's a good attitude to have. Yeah, wrapping up, I guess. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Smitty?
We've had a long interview, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. I'm okay. Should we go to the final question? Kieran, do you want to mention anything or?
No, I'm pretty happy. Just I guess thanks for having me, guys, and shout out to everyone that's helped me along the way to get where I am. Come a long way. Definitely got a long way to go, but to my girlfriend, my parents, coaches, friends, could name a lot of different mates and coaches and medical professionals that have done a lot for me. Both Ben and Gary and Katie, and my strength coach Dan, my sports doctor. Got so many really great friends that have stuck by me during some really tough periods, and my girlfriend, who's even recently has done a lot for me. So I'm really appreciative of all the people around me. And yes, I've done a lot of this myself, but it wouldn't have happened without the people around me. Even if you are a very independent person, it's not just a solo effort. So I'm really appreciative of everyone that's helped me and not given up on me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
We will have to ask the final question because we almost forgot, which
Sure.
is, what's your favorite race? What's been your favorite race and sort of why? This is normally what we end on.
Oh, that's a real tough one. I'd say that my state 3K is one of my favorite races because I really love that race. I enjoyed it. That feeling of coming across the finish line in front of all my mates and my girlfriend, my family. Like I was on another level. I was on a high on that race. Like that was so much fun. It felt sick because I kind of led the race out. Had a lot of different tactical and physical challenges to win the race, and then to come out on top in front of a pretty deep field was pretty cool. To have I could hear all my mates screaming at me. That was pretty, and we had a great night. We went out to Ivy after, so that was pretty cool. The other one I'd say was Sydney 10 because it was in front of my home crowd, and that was cool as well. Breaking a record by an Olympian was something that I've always wanted, and to win that along with Uganda would be the only one I'd mention because it was World's Cross. You got to shout that one out. But I can't pick one. No. Sorry, but I'd say my most recent. I love State 3K. If I had to pick one, I was really happy during that, and I really loved it, and it was just a really cool whole weekend and a cool race.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's a pretty cool vibe on the track.
Yeah.
At those
That was a big
races,
crowd too. Like that was a really
Yeah.
deep crowd there was a lot of people, and a lot of them were my friends and family and supporters and just mates that I raced. So it felt pretty cool just to be around a bunch of people that appreciate and love you or like you, and know what you do and know how hard you work and celebrate with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for
Thanks
coming
for having
on.
me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Kieran.
Cheers.
Really appreciate it, mate.
No, thank you. Cheers. Okay.